Hey y'all, welcome back to Right at the Wire. Well, as I noted earlier in my postings, there is a Breeders' Cup Pick 6 this weekend, combining 3 races from Keeneland as well as 3 from Santa Anita, and they're all graded stakes. The order of the races is still not exact, so please double check and make sure that you get it correctly. I've noted the post times for the races, and you'll see that, but it's a really nice sequence. Whatever order they come in, we just got to make sure we get the right one. So let's take a look at the races. Okay, so this is the lineup for the Breeders' Cup Pick 6 on Saturday, October 7th. And again, they're promoting this as the first 3 races of the sequence, or the first 3 legs are at Keeneland, and then the last 3 at Santa Anita. But that's not the way the post times are lined up in the past performances. So what I've done is chronologically set it up, the sequence, according to the post times. And I think that that's likely the way it will work. But please, as I mentioned, double check and make sure, because we don't want to have a faulty ticket just because we didn't get the legs of the races right. So this is the way I see it. Keeneland, race 7 is the first leg at 4:12 p.m. That's the TCA Sprint. Leg 2, Santa Anita, race 3 at 5 o'clock. That's the Chandelier. And these are all Eastern Standard Times, by the way, Eastern Daylight Time, however. Leg 3 at Keeneland, race 9, 5:14 p.m., the Breeders' Futureity. Leg 4 at Keeneland, race 10, 5:45, the Coolmore Turf Mile. Then leg 5 at Santa Anita, race 8 at 7:30, the Rodeo Drive. And then leg 6 at Santa Anita, final leg, race 9 at 8 p.m., the American Pharaoh. And you note that these guys try to have a joint venture, and they still can't do it correctly because there's there's an hour and a half gap between the 4th and the 5th leg, and so where they probably could have put the Chandelier, and maybe they still did. So again, just want to reiterate, I can't stress this enough. Please make sure that you find out the correct order. This is what I think it is, but you know, again, it could be wrong. So just want to make sure that we're all on the same page with that. The leg 1, race 7 at Keeneland is the TCA Sprint Championship. It's a grade 2, 6 furlongs, 3-year-olds and up, fillies and mares. And I think this is pretty much a 2-horse race, as I mentioned in my my posting about the pick 5. Wicked Halo and You Girl are the most logical. I think Wicked Halo is going to benefit from not having to deal with the top sprinters like Ganite or Elite Power, Goodnight Olive, or even Matarea. So I think that this is a much better spot, and I is coming to this race. The last race was a little off, but I think that she needed one, having had a layoff, and coming in second off the layoff, I think she'll be in top form, and she'd be my pick to win this. You Girl is the logical second choice. Has the edge in that she can go short or long, so she definitely has stamina. And in races like this, that is usually a big plus, because sometimes horses get on the lead and they gun it, and it makes for a real hot pace. This case here, Static Fire or Happy Solo are our 2 front runners, and I don't see either one of them setting blistering fractions. So it perhaps negates a little bit You Girl's stamina edge, but I still like her. I think she's a logical choice candidate to win this race. And then as a price, if you're looking for one, how about Fire on Time? Dale Romans. This horse has a good race, bad race pattern, but the first race coming off the layoff was pretty solid. And I just have a feeling at 4, she can move forward and have another decent race. I'm not sure she's good enough to win this race, but I think there's one you definitely want to keep an eye on, particularly for the exotics for underneath. Leg 2 is race 3 from Santa Anita, and again, I can't stress this enough. We got to check this to make sure, but by the post times, this is leg 2. It's the Chandelier Stakes. It's a grade 2 run at 1 mile and a 16th for 2-year-old fillies, and without Tamara in here, this is or Dreamfire for that matter, this one is pretty wide open. And I think what perhaps may make the difference is there are some of these in here who are by 2-turn sires. For instance, Chatala is by Gunrunner. Pacific Rose is by Not This Time, and Gate to Paradise is by Arrogate. So they should relish the distance. You can notice here there isn't a lot of early speed in this race, and that certainly is going to work against some of the late runners in here, like Loren, who in this field has the best last speed figure, but he's not going to have a lot of pace to run to. And but you know, they're 2-year-olds, so he could definitely get a little closer to the pace. Dua is a Bob Baffert, and I'm just not impressed at all with that horse. And we'll probably get the lead, and you know, with Baffert anything's possible. But this one just doesn't look as good as the others, and so it's rare to throw out a Baffert, but I'm going to do it. Shatala chased the pace in the debutante last time and kept on pretty well, but there were a lot going right by him. So I don't know how much class-wise that she measures up with some of the betters in here. But again, being by Gunrunner, I think that the 2 turns will be a distance that she relishes, and the fact that there isn't a lot of pace in this race should be right up near it, and should get first jump. So Shatala should be in a pretty good position. Scalable is a Todd Pletcher, and it's kind of interesting to see him send this one west. The first start was okay. Got carried wide quite a bit at Saratoga. But, you know, with Todd Pletcher, his second start, likely to improve, particularly around a route. The one thing I will say is, being by Speightstown, I have my doubts as far as distance goes. It's not cast in stone, but you've got Tappet underneath, and so that may make up for it. Speightstown can get a horse that'll go 2 turns on occasion, so we'll use Scalable. Pacific Rose is an interesting one. I think you're going to get a really nice price, and her last race, she had a sustained drive all the way around the track and broke a little slow, and I think that's what ultimately cost her. But outran her odds. She was 50-1, and ran what I thought was a pretty darn good race. And so getting around 2 turns might be just what the doctor ordered. Going to have to increase speed figure-wise for sure, but you're going to get a really nice price, and one that probably under is more likely. Gate to Paradise is, again, another one being by Arrogate. She should absolutely love 2 turns, and I thought ran a pretty good race in the debutante. Didn't have quite the kick that Loren did, but showed something in that race. And again, going around 2 turns, I think that will improve her chances. So Gate to Paradise, one to think about. Loren is definitely ran the best of all of them, I would say, in the debutante last time, and showed a really solid kick in the stretch. Little late change in leads, I did note, but they're 2-year-olds, and that's something that they can work out. But Loren looks pretty good. Just a little worried there isn't going to be a lot of pace to run to. That's really the only question, but they could also get, with improvement, she could be more forwardly placed, and that would give her a really good shot to win this race. And she's certainly one to consider as a win candidate. And then I'm throwing in Autumn Chill as one to think about, probably more for under than anything else. But this one is progressing nicely, and wasn't a closer favoring track last time when she picked up the win, but is getting better. And, you know, again, this is the kind of race that you want prices for sure, and is maybe one to think about. Probably more under is likely, but I think is one that you have to think about. Leg 3 is race 9 at Keeneland, and it's the British Futurity. It's a grade 1 running 1 1/16 for 2-year-olds, and I consider this to be a really contentious race. From the ease, Timberlake ran a really game effort in the hopeful, despite really hot fractions, was able to hang in there and ran a great second, and losing out to Nutella Fellow, but I think showed a lot of class in that race, and is going to have some company on the front end, as you can see. But I think this one is the class of this field, one of the best in this field, I should say. And I think Timberlake is definitely a prime win candidate and could very well wire this field. Awesome Road is a Brad Cox trainee, and being in the race, you automatically have to consider. The only thing I'm a little reticent to use this one about is that he just comes off a maiden win that was pretty good. I wouldn't say it was great, but and given the fact that there's some other early pace in this race, I mean, Cox may take this one back, but a little bit. But I still think going into a Grade 1 stakes after a maiden win is kind of a tall order, but showed a little bit of precocity, and maybe one you definitely want to think about for underneath. Not sure about a win candidate. West Saratoga was one that I wasn't that high on this horse at first, but then, in further review, you look, and this one has been getting better with every race, and the class level is improving with the race level, and you've heard me allude to that a million times, but that's the ideal type of situation. So with another step forward, which is highly likely, I think West Saratoga might be a sleeper in this field, and you're probably going to get a decent price. Locked, I really like in this race a lot. I think showed a ton of talent, and I think the sky's the limit for this one. Just blew away the field at Saratoga in his last race. And you can't do that unless there's something in the tank there, and there's definitely a lot of talent. Now, the only question we have, of course, is there may be a bounce after a really big effort like that. But this one may not have to run his best to win this necessarily, especially if Just Steel or Northern Flame get sent, which I think is likely for Just Steel in particular, and they may set up some hot fractions like they did in the Hopeful. And if so, Locked should be right there. And if he runs back to the race he did at Saratoga, then he's the winner in this race, no question about it. Finally, the Wine Steward hasn't done anything wrong. He's undefeated. And the thing I like is, more than anything, that he has had to fight for every win. And, you love those horses who show that grit early on, who just aren't going to be denied the win. And I think that coming into a race like that, like this one rather, that's a really good thing, and is maybe laying the weeds a little bit because of some of the other more high-profile horses. But I think the Wine Steward definitely has every chance to win this race. Leg 4 is the 10th race at Keeneland. It's the Coolmore Turf Mile. It's a Grade 1 running a mile on the turf for 3-year-olds and up. And you learn right off the bat that there's more runners running late in this race than as opposed to running up on the lead. Stitched, I've upgraded from an EP, which he doesn't necessarily have to have the lead, but I'm kind of thinking in this field he probably will get it by default, and he's more than capable of taking them all the way around the track, although this is a pretty tough field to do so, and I don't like his chances necessarily to do it, but I think it's his best chance. Atone is he needs this race more than some of the others. I don't know that he's in the Breeders' Cup yet, and I don't know if he's going to run in the turf or the mile, which one they would choose. I would think the turf would make more sense, given his the distances he normally runs at. But in any event, the fact that there isn't a lot of pace in this race will put him right off of Stitched and English B more than likely, and that'll give him first jump. And if he's good enough, he's got a chance in this race. Mike Maker is really good third off the layoff. And I think this horse needs this race more than some of the others. And for that reason, he's probably going to be tuned up all the way, whereas a couple of the others who we'll get to perhaps aren't. Indestructible, I think, is interesting in that I don't think he's in the Breeders' Cup yet. Comes over from England, and he has run against some really tough customers. And the last race in particular was he had a pretty tough field to go against. I've noted in watching his races a couple of things. Number one, his more subpar efforts have been on soft turf, and a lot of times they transfer him over here when they have trouble with soft turf. So he's going to get firm, no question about it, firmer here than he has had. So I think that'll help. The other thing is that in some of those, in the last couple of races, there's undulations in the track. in the turf, hills and whatnot. So that perhaps has been an impediment to him running his best efforts. He tends to be pretty keen out of the gate and then kind of flattens out in the stretch, and I just wonder if maybe those hills take a little bit out of him. But I think he's capable of better, and because of the maybe a little more of a sense of urgency than some of the others, that Indestructible might be one to consider, particularly when you think about who he's been running against, where they're, horses are a lot classier than our turf horses, to be frank. So he's one I think is kind of sneaky good in here. Up to the Mark, if Up to the Mark runs back to what he did before the long layoff, this race is over. We know this. He's not going to run in the mile, so this has to be considered a tune-up, and that's really the question. Is he going to be tuned up all the way? That's really the only thing that I'm wondering about. You could single him for sure, but I don't know that with the turf being his final destination at the Breeders' Cup, that they would necessarily have him tuned up. This would be more of a prep race, but he's certainly one you have to keep on your tickets. Annapolis will definitely run in the mile, I would think, and because that's what he does. His last race, he was incredibly unlucky in the Mint Million. He had plenty of horse coming into the stretch, and I think he probably would have, if he didn't win it, he would have been very, very close to doing so. But he ran into a wall of horses, and he had to check pretty sharply. And I think once his jockey saw that, then they didn't press the issue, and so he was it probably isn't as bad a race as it perhaps looks on paper if you go back and watch it. So Annapolis, I think, is one you certainly have to consider. Master of the Seas is already in the Breeders' Cup because he won the Woodbine Mile. So that I would have to consider this as merely a race to keep him in form leading up to the Breeders' Cup Mile. He's capable of winning this. I mean, he's going to be coming from off the pace, from behind, but there isn't a lot of pace to run to, I don't think, in here. And that may compromise his chances. And also, I'm not sure he's going to be, as I mentioned, he's going to be tuned up all the way. But you have to put him on the ticket. I think he's definitely a win candidate for sure. Just a note, you may notice that Set Piece I've thrown out. There's only one reason for that, is that Set Piece does not run well off the bench. He doesn't bring his A game, and that's really the only reason I'm leaving him off. I believe he's already in the Breeders' Cup. So again, I think this is just sort of a race to keep him in form or get him going. But that's why I'm throwing him out. So I don't think it's a foregone conclusion that Up to the Mark is going to win this race for the reasons stated. So I think we have to consider some other candidates here who may have a better shot just based upon their sense of urgency. Leg 5 is the 9th race at Santa Anita. It's the Rodeo Drive Stakes, Grade 2, run at 1.25 miles on the Hillside Turf course for 3-year-olds and up fillies and mares. And when we say Hillside Turf, it's starting at the bottom of the course. It's not like there's a big downhill descent or anything. And they're going to cross over the dirt to get onto the main turf track. So it's it's a little misleading with the description. If we look at this race, we'll see there isn't a lot of early pace. I've upgraded Turner Loose to E from EP because more than likely that she will get to the lead and try to wire him. She tried to do so last time. It just got nipped, but I think it's going to be a tall order for her. It's not quite have the class of some of the others in this race, but will likely be on the engine. Neige Blanche, I've kind of included. I think Leonard Powell having 2 in this race, Anisette as well as Neige Blanche, I think may use the latter as a rabbit. I got a sneaky feeling that might happen, so we may get a little more pace than perhaps we initially thought. But I don't necessarily consider her a win candidate, but does have a really positive record over the Santa Anita turf course. So maybe one to think about for underneath more than likely, but probably not a win candidate. Didia, I think, is a really solid candidate to win this race. Has been really been progressing nicely since she came to the U.S. and I think has a bit of a speed edge over some of the others. And being with maybe not quite so much pace, she will get first jump on some of the late runners, and I think has a really good chance to win this race. With all those late runners, that's the other thing. When you have a lot of closers instead of just one or two, sometimes they don't run as well because there's a lot of traffic and things that can happen. So I think Didia tactically has a pretty good advantage. Anizet is a 3-year-old who hasn't run against older yet, but she's been getting better and better, is progressing really nicely, and again, may have a rabbit to run to in this one, and I think is a worthy win candidate. Closing remarks coming in third off the layoff. Couldn't be running any better right now. Again, not sure that there's going to be enough pace to run to for her liking, but she looks awful good. I do have one question about her, that being by Vronsky, I'm not sure 1.25 miles is necessarily her best distance. She has run at it before, but didn't win. So that's just a little thing in the back of my mind, but she's certainly a worthy contender here, and I think is a solid win candidate. The last leg of the pick six is the 9th race, and by the way, leg 5, that should have been the 8th race. Sorry about that. At Santa Anita, I know this is confusing, sorry. This is the American Pharaoh Stakes. It's a Grade 1, running 1 1/16 for 2-year-olds. And this race, all the horses in here have 2-turn pedigree, so that's not really an issue. Muth is obviously the one to beat. I'm going to forgive the last one. Maybe just wasn't right that day, but did finish second to Prince of Monaco. So we're not going to hold too much against him here. I think on pure speed, he should get to the lead and he should wire this field. He's going to have a couple of contenders in here, but I think it's definitely his race to lose. You can't knock out Bob Baffert when he's got a horse like this. Next level is one that's making a steady improvement. I'm not sure is up to the task of beating Muth, but is heading in the right direction. Wind Me Up had a nice maiden score and another Baffert. Could very well be a Bob Baffert exotic. It's happened before. But I'm not sure, coming off a maiden win, I necessarily want to put him ahead of Muth. And then BU, Todd Pletcher shipping another one to the West Coast, and I think he's got a better shot in the other race. But this one ran a pretty good hopeful after a really nice maiden score, and the hopeful was kind of a funky race because the pace was so hot, but I think acquitted himself pretty well, and I fully expect first around a route is a great angle for Todd Pletcher. And he'll probably run a nice race, but I think this is Muth's race to lose. So here's what our ticket looks like for the Breeders' Cup Pick 6. And there is a chance that this could be a fairly chalky ticket, so I don't think we want to go overboard in buying a lot of options here. Particularly, you start with leg 1 in race 7. I think it's Wicked Halo or You Girl, so we're going to use 1-6. Leg 2, the Chandelier at Santa Anita. And again, I'll note, please check the order of these races to make sure they're correct. We're going to use 1, 6, and 8, and that's a race that I think you could probably spread a little bit more, but we want to be economical. Leg 3, race 9 at Keeneland, we're going to use 1, 2, 5, and 9. In leg 4, race 10 at Keeneland, we're going to use, again, 1, 2, 5, and 9. Leg 5, race 8 at Santa Anita, we're going to use 2, 4, and 6. And then to finish up with the American Pharaoh, race 9, leg 6 at Santa Anita, we're going to single Muth. And I think it's his race to lose, and I think you've got to find a single to do a pick 6 ticket, and I think he's a very worthy one. So it's a $1 ticket, it's a $1 base rather, so it's 2 times 3 is 6, times 4 is 24, times 4 is 96, times 3 is 288. It's a $288 ticket on a $1 base. So that's the pick 6. It's a fairly chalky ticket, I think. There's a couple races there I think are going to go really lean. But in the Chandelier in particular, if you're going to pick one race to spread, that's the one I would do it in. I think there's a lot of ways to go there, and I think it's a pretty wide open race. But it should be fun to see how it unfolds. Again, I'll say one more time, just because I'm afraid that where our sequence will be wrong unless we make sure that the order of the races is correct. So again, I'll just mention it. I know I'm a broken record. I apologize, but I just want to make sure everybody has it in order correctly. So make sure you double check before you put the ticket in if you choose to go forward with it. Hope our analysis helps you, and I wish you the best of luck as always. I think it's going to be a great weekend of racing. There's a lot of good stuff. Keeneland, Santa Anita, Belmont at Aqueduct, and we'll have a posting for the Big A later on to look forward to. They've got some Breeders' Cup implications, a lot of good stakes races. So great weekend of racing, and looking forward to it. Hope you are too. So that's it from here. If you do like what you see here, please like and subscribe. And as always, we thank you for coming by and hope to see you again real soon. I'll talk to you in a little bit. And until then, be well.